Hello and welcome to Rathods IAS Academy. Today in this session, we are going to see current affairs of 17th January 2026. First of all, let us see the topics of the day. First topic, it is about 44,000 new startups were registered in 2025, says Prime Minister. So here you have to say about these startups and why these startups had been increased in India and what are the programs government came up regarding the startups. And this topic is very important from your economy from GS paper 3. And there is one important image that I see in this international edition of Hindu, that is about Jallikattu. Many a times UPSC asked questions related to this. And this topic is important from your history from GS paper 1. Our next topic is talks on Chabahar port operations will continue with US and Iran. As you all know that the issues are going between this Iran and as well as US, and India is having its own interest in this Iran related to this Chabahar port. So related to this Chabahar port, our Minister of External Affairs, he made a statement regarding Chabahar port, and this topic is important from international issues from GS paper 2. And next topic is expert panel sets norms for religious sites in sanctuaries. Actually, now we are going to have expert panels, and these expert panels they are now going to come up with the norms, rules, and regulations that need to be followed related to these religious sites within the sanctuaries. And this topic is important from GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. And next topic it is about on mute. So this article is talking about India's foreign policy. As we all know that there is increasing of pressure of US on India and how India should be. So that is about this article, and this is important from your international relations from GS paper 2. And next topic is budget 2026 to 2027 must keep the growth momentum. So this article is talking about this year budget, whatever the thing that we are going to introduce on this February 1st. So how this budget should be and where we have to focus. That is about this topic, and it is important from again economy from GS paper 3. So all these are the topics now we are going to discuss in this class, and today is Saturday. And in this Sankranti vacation, so whatever the current affairs were there, so I completed the recording. So please do watch earlier videos. I made 2 videos. In one video, I recorded 12th and 13th, and another video 13th and 14th and as well as 15th. And 16th is holiday. There is no Hindu paper had been published yesterday. So because of this, I didn't took the 16th, and now from today onwards, again it will go on daily basis from Monday to Saturday. But Sunday is like I'll take leave for this. But from Monday to Saturday, you'll be getting daily current affairs from now onwards, guys. Okay, and I want to make a small announcement. We in our Rathods IAS Academy, we are going to launch a new batch for GS Prelims cum Mains Foundation on online as well as offline. So if you want to join that course, and if you're planning to take this UPSC, you can get further details of this course. So for that, please do contact us on this number 8074765513. Don't forget, guys. Okay, now let us see the first article. Look at the title. 44,000 new startups were registered in 2025, says Prime Minister. In this article, we have to see the title. We have to see this keyword. Keyword is startup. And this article is saying that there is good startup ecosystem in our country. Okay, now let us see what exactly our Prime Minister said. And here you have to see what is the statement made by our Prime Minister. And you have to see why our Prime Minister made that statement. And you have to see the supporting arguments for this statement. And next you have to see what is the impact. Very, very important topic from your mains point of view. And today you will be getting mains question on this topic, guys. Okay, now let us see the context. If you see the context, this article is saying that our Prime Minister says startup mission has become a revolution within the country, becoming the 3rd largest startup ecosystem globally. India launched one scheme called as Startup India. So this scheme, it is encouraging startup in our country. And because of this scheme, our Prime Minister is saying that India became 3rd largest country which is having good startup economy across the world. So this is the statement, and you have to remember here, India is the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world. So it is a very, very important statement that you can use while writing your introduction related to startup ecosystem in our country or related to the startups. If you see the further more details, this article is saying that startup registrations surged to nearly 44,000 in 2025. In 2025 alone, how many startups had been registered? 44,000 startups had been registered. And when we launched this scheme, Startup India scheme launched in year 2016. Before launch of this scheme in 2014, only 500 startups they were registered. But after the launch of this scheme in 2016, the startups number had been increased to 44,000 in 2025 itself. That means it is a great success. If you see certain government initiatives and supports came up by the government to encourage the startups in India, first scheme here is Startup India when we launched in 2016. The important aim of this scheme it is to boost innovation, entrepreneurship and as well as investment led growth in our country. That is about this scheme. So here you have to know certain details regarding this Startup India scheme because it is a highly success scheme in 2025. So you may get a question in your prelims related to this Startup India and you have to make the details of this scheme, guys. Don't forget this. And the second important initiative came up by the government is Fund of Funds 2.0 and we approved in the month of April 2025 and the outlay for this program it is around 10,000 crore rupees. And here in this Fund of Funds 2.0, we are focusing on deep tech areas like artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum technologies, defense and aerospace. So because of this, there is a very good boost for startups in this AI, quantum technologies, defense and aerospace also in our country. That is the second initiative. And not only that, government came with lots of reforms related to societal views, making risk-taking mainstream and respected, encouraging youth to pursue entrepreneurial path. So actually here you know that India is having the largest population in the world and India already beat it, China, according to United Nations World Prospects Report. Actually, here the youth population is very high in India, especially demographic dividend is very high. If government has to provide only government jobs, it is not at all possible for the government to provide government job for each and every person in our country. So for that, government is trying to improve entrepreneurship skills. Okay, in that way, government came up with certain reforms. So because of that, reforms also, especially youth now, they are starting their own startups and they started providing employment opportunities for others. So these are the three things which you have to remember regarding why this startup growth happened in our country. First one is Startup India, next one is Fund of Funds, next one is reforms where government is focusing on encouraging youth to pursue this entrepreneurship skills. Okay, these 3 points that you have to remember. And what is the impact of this registering of more number of startups? First one is obvious, these startups, they'll produce something so that they contribute to our GDP. That will lead to economic growth, first one. And actually how these startups will produce something or make something, they have to recruit some people, right? So here they can also create jobs that will lead to decreasing of unemployment. And this one here is whenever we are encouraging startups, whenever the youth they are starting this kind of entrepreneurship, then they will focus on research and development. That will lead to boost of innovation in our country and as well as growth. And this one here is we can also enhance economic resilience. We can now focus on Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is nothing but self-reliant India. Whatever the things that we need, we can now produce in our country. That is called as Atmanirbhar Bharat. And next one here is in long term, we are going to have proof of concept and even we can increase our capital risk as well. So these are some major impacts of this increasing of registration of startups in our country. Okay, now let us see the next article. Here you can see an image. In this image you can see people who are surrounding one bill and they are trying to control that bull, right? So this event is called as Jallikattu. So you may get directly a prelims based question from this image. The question will go in this way, like consider the following statements regarding Jallikattu, and they'll give you 2 to 3 statements, and they may ask you which of the above statements are correct or incorrect. And next one here is you may get a pair based question, like this kind of animal related events on one column. In another column they will ask you the state. For example, during this Sankranti festival in AP, which is a famous animal related things, cockfights, and in Tamil Nadu, Jallikattu. Like that, they will give you different events, especially animal used events, and they will be asking you to find out the correct pair, whether they are matched with the correct state or not. Okay, in that way also you may get a question. You have to be very much careful. So this Jallikattu, it is a traditional sport which is majorly seen in which state? Tamil Nadu. Similarly, we have one more event called as Kambala. Kambala is seen in Karnataka. Cockfights are seen in AP. So like that, you have to make a list of animal related sports and in which states we can see them. Okay, and this sport involves releasing of a wild bull into a crowd of people, and now the participants, they will try to grab this bull's hump and they want to control that bull. This event is called as Jallikattu. And normally this event, which is celebrated in the month of January, especially during Tamil harvest festival, that is called as Pongal. But there are certain concerns which are raised related to this animal sport. That is nothing but Article 29.1. So Article 29.1 says that it is a fundamental right through which we can protect our cultural rights. But this kind of events which will create or which will violate this animal rights as well. Sometimes it will cause pain for the animal. Sometimes it may kill the animals. So because of this, what is the concern here is Article 29 versus animal rights. Okay, so because of this, what happened was, because of this, even Supreme Court banned this Jallikattu earlier. And later on, Tamil Nadu government came up with its own act and again it resumed this Jallikattu. Okay, so that's the thing that you have to remember, nothing more than that. And say this next article, guys. Talks on Chabahar port operations will continue with US and Iran, says Ministry of External Affairs. As you all know that protests are happening in Iran. Iran is under protest. So who are doing the protest? Citizens of Iran. What is the major reason? Economic crisis is a major reason. Why economic crisis? Because of US sanctions. The major reason is US sanctions. So why US imposed sanctions? US came up with Iran's nuclear deal in year 2015, and according to that Iran's nuclear deal, Iran should not go for uranium enrichment. Why? Because uranium enrichment is very important for making of nuclear bombs. Actually, US along with other countries wants to control nuclear bomb production in Iran. So because of this, they came up with this Iran's nuclear deal in 2015. After that, in 2017-18, US came out of this deal. After once US came out of this Iran's nuclear deal, it started imposing sanctions on Iran. So what is that act? CAATSA. US came up with this act called as Countering American Adversaries Through Sanction Act and started imposing sanctions on Iran. Okay, so what happened at that time? So what is a major economy? Major economy of Iran is dependent on oil, crude oil. India is also used to buy oil from this Iran earlier. But because of this fear of sanctions, India started importing less, and finally we made it to zero. We are not at all importing any oil from Iran irrespective or despite of very much near because of this fear of this CAATSA. So what happened now? The countries which are buying this Iran, they are going to have this fear of sanctions. So because of that, what happened? Other countries also, not only India, other countries which are importing oil from this Iran, they decreased their imports. So because of this, what happened? It hit this economy of this Iran. So now Iran is in economic crisis. Okay, so what kind of things are happening in this Iran here is, Iran is not having funds at all. And even Iran is not attracting any investments like FDI, FPI, foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investments. And next one here is, Iran is not able to sell its oil to other countries. Okay, so because of this, what is happening here? There is a very huge inflation in Iran now. What is this concept of inflation? Whenever there is rise of price of goods and service in the market, that is called as inflation. So because of this, the ordinary people, citizens of this Iran, they cannot buy the basic things now in this Iran. That is a one thing. And if the prices are increasing, what happen? Who will be getting losses? Shopkeepers. Shopkeepers, they cannot sell the goods. So because of this, now shopkeepers and as well as general public, they are doing protest. Okay. So if the people are doing protest against the government, will government be silent? No. Now Iran's government is trying to compress this kind of protests which are done by this general public and as well as shopkeepers. Sometimes, always the protest, if you want to stop that protest, will not be peaceful always. So what happened? There is certain violence happened in this kind of suppressing of protest of the people, and around 7 people were died. So now what happened? Again, US came into picture, and US asked Iran government that Iran, it is not fair if you are killing these peaceful protesters. If you are killing these peaceful protesters, and I will be entering into the war. That is a statement given by US. And in the last days current affairs, what we discussed, US is asking these protesters to take control of government institutions. Okay, so that is a thing which happened so far. But what exactly this article is saying? In Iran, we decreased this oil imports, but Iran is very important for India. For what? Iran is a very important country to have access to West Asia and to reach this Afghanistan. In Pakistan is not giving access to India to use its air space or land or whatever it may be. So we need to have the help. We need to get the help from other countries to reach this Afghanistan. So which country is helping India? Iran. In Iran, what India is doing? India is developing port called as Chabahar port, and through this port, India is trying to reach this Afghanistan and as well as West Asian countries. So if US is imposing sanctions on Iran once again, means obviously it will be having impact on India's interest in this Chabahar port. So recently there are certain headlines in the different newspapers and TV channels were highlighted that India is supporting Iran. So because of this, India is going to lose its control in this Chabahar port. So because of this, in retaliation of that kind of statements, now today's article is saying that yes, we are having continuous talks with US and as well as Iran, and we are going to continue our Chabahar port operations despite of whatever the conditions it may be. That is the thing which mainly said by our Ministry of External Affairs case. Okay, if you want to understand this kind of international relations articles, you have to go back at least 10 to 15 years back, and you have to understand what is happening from 10 to 15 years onwards. Then only you can have the good hold or good grip on what is happening in this international relations. Okay, now let us see the context. This article is saying that India is actively talking with both US and as well as Iran to find ways to sustain operations at Chabahar port. And we want to counter media reports suggesting that India is withdrawing from this Chabahar port. There are many statements in the media, they are saying that India is withdrawing from this Chabahar port. So to counter this, yes, our Ministry of External Affairs is giving clarification that no, we are not withdrawing. We are having continuous talks with Iran and as well as US related to operations in this Chabahar port. Okay, this statement which mainly emphasizes India's long-standing ties with Iran and as well as ongoing dialogues despite geopolitical challenges like US sanctions and as well as internal unrest in Iran. So even though internal unrest, even though US sanctions, so India is having a long-standing ties and we are going for taking this thing in the forward, like how we can maintain the relationship with Iran and as well as US despite of not disturbing our operations in this Chabahar port. If you see the details which are given in this article says that US Department of Treasury issued guidance on a conditional waiver. If you want to know about the facts related to this Chabahar port, so in 2015 itself, US came up with this Iran's nuclear deal, and after US left this Iran's nuclear deal, it started imposing sanctions. At that time, India got waiver from this US related to this Chabahar port. Okay, that's the thing which mainly said here. India-Iran signed 10-year agreement in 2024 for long-term operations at this port. And next one here is US gave the waiver for India and it is valid until this April 26, 2026. So because of this, it is going to end in the month of April. So because of this, we want to extend that waiver from US. Because of this, India is doing certain talks with Iran and as well as US. And why this Chabahar port is important, you have to make a note. First one here is Chabahar port will provide access to Afghanistan for India. First one, because Pakistan is not allowing India to use its land or airspace. So because of this, we need to have an alternative. So Chabahar port is providing that alternative to reach this Afghanistan and even Central Asian countries by bypassing Pakistan. The first thing. And this one is this Iran is key part of international north-south transport corridor. Actually, this corridor is around 7,200 kilometers route, and this route will link India to Russia, Europe, and beyond. So, as part of this INSTC, also Iran plays a very important role. And third one is it is acting as a counter to Gwadar port of Pakistan. And this Gwadar port and Pakistan and China, they are like friends, like Pakistan and China. So to counter this China and as well as Pakistan, we need to have this Chabahar port. And each one is normally this port is used for humanitarian aid to help this Afghanistan and as well as even Iran also. We helped this Iran in 2021, especially for humanitarian aid also. This Chabahar port plays a very important role. So you may get a 10 marker question like Chabahar port, its significance to India. So here you have to expand this 4 points with examples and as well as map, then your work is done in the body. Okay, now let us see the next article. Title says expert panel sets norms for religious sites and sanctuaries. Very, very important article, guys. So normally, always we will be having certain ethical dilemmas. What are the dilemmas here? Saving of environment versus religious practices, saving of environment versus developmental activities. So actually sanctuaries are the areas which are very, very important for our environment and ecology. And in that sanctuaries, in that forest area also, we have certain areas which are dedicated to religious practices. For example, we have sacred groves, and even nowadays Medaram Jatra is going to held in our Telangana state, and this is going to be started from January 28th. So as if they are nothing but the tribal deities who will be revered in that so and so Jatra, and you know that entire thing will be happening in a forest region. And if the lakhs of people who are visiting this kind of events biannually, means obviously it will be having impact on our environment. So now this article is saying that we need to have an expert panel, and this expert panel has to look at this kind of issues related to this religious sites and sanctuaries. So now let us see this article. If you see the context, it is saying that we are going to have an apex expert body of environment ministry, and now this panel will be deciding whether we can go for infrastructure development within this wildlife habitat or not. And they are going to come up with some guidelines that specify the conditions under which the land inside this wildlife parks or sanctuaries may be diverted for religious structures or not. The first one here is we are going to have expert panels. So this expert panels, they will decide whether we can permit infrastructure development or not, first one. And next one is they will come up with the guidelines like how we have to use land inside this wildlife parks or sanctuaries. And third one they said is they will be deciding whether the land is diverted to this religious practices or not. Okay, so now let us see what are those guidelines and conditions. So first one here is there are certain proposals for establishing or continuing religious structures or institutions in protected areas. They have to submit through state boards for wildlife or national boards for wildlife standing committee. So now we are going to have these expert panels. These expert panels will be giving guidelines to our state boards and as well as national boards related to this diversion of land. And it's when state governments required to verify and certify the legal status of the site. For example, whether it is a national park, or whether it is a biosphere reserve, or whether it is a wildlife sanctuary or not. Who will decide that? State government has to decide that. And next one here is they have to see even the settlement records and as well as supporting documents related to this status of that so and so area. And this one here is these guidelines are going to apply to national parks and as well as wildlife sanctuaries. And this one is they want to ensure consistency in decision making and as well as they want to prevent arbitrary approvals. So these are some guidelines the government is going to come up. Once they were set up, then we will get the clear-cut details about who will be the members of that panels and what are those roles and responsibilities, what are the advantages, what are the challenges, everything we'll get in detail once this expert panels are set up. As of now, remember, especially to divert the land of this national parks or wildlife sanctuaries towards this religious activities, religious considerations, we are going to have expert panels soon. That is very important. And next, what are the implications of this kind of expert panel that we are going to get? First one is many a times we have lots of concerns related to infrastructure development and as well as religious developments in the sensitive wildlife habitats. Because if you're going for this kind of infrastructure development like temple construction or mandapas construction or else hotels, etc., what happens? Whatever the biodiversity which is present in that region, it will be getting affected. And even animal movement will happen and as well as poaching control should be done. For example, have you ever seen if you're from this AP region to go to this Tirupati temple, we have to go with this steps way. We have steps way. So normally sometimes what happens is tigers will be moving in that area. These tigers will be attacking this pilgrims who are visiting in that route like that. So what happens many a time here, animal movement will be getting affected if you're going for development of that kind of religious activities or religious activities related infrastructure in this sanctuaries. And this one here is animal movement. For example, if you want to go to this Srisailam, especially from this Telangana, we have to cross this tiger reserve region, right? So what happens if we are allowing this movement of these vehicles even in the night time, means what happens, they will be affecting the movement of animals, and normally this route will be closed after the so and so time and they will be opening in the morning, right? So what happens here is, especially related to this kind of religious infrastructure, we need to take care of both religious rights and as well as animal rights. That is the thing which mainly said here. And even whenever we are allowing this movement of people into this forest areas, what happens sometimes these people who are moving in that area, they can kill animals for the poaching purpose. Right? For example, there's a very huge demand for the nails of the tigers, especially they are used for this jewelry products. And next one here is pangolins. Pangolin shells are very important in Chinese medicines, and this animal is hugely poached. So like that here, poaching is also one important cause of concern here. To control that also, now this expert panel is going to take certain steps and they are going to give you like proper guidelines to prevent this poaching and to prevent inconvenience for the animal movement, and as well as there should be very less impact on biodiversity. And this one here is we are going to prevent the misuse related to this land diversions, and obviously we are going to promote this cultural heritage as well, and we have to control this human wildlife conflicts also. So these are the some implications of this kind of setting up of expert panel. Okay, now let us see the next article. Look at the title. Title says on mute. So this article is saying that India's interest can be secured only by assertion of its strategic autonomy. So we need to develop our own autonomy. What is meaning of autonomy? We need to take our decisions our own self. So there should not be any influence of others on our decisions, right? So what is happening in this international relations? US, after this Donald Trump came into power second time, that is Trump 2.0 era, which is increasing pressure not only on India, different countries are facing pressure from this Trump 2.0 era, right? So here this article is saying that always India should be strategically autonomous country. No other country's influence should be there on India. That is the idea of this article, guys. So this article is saying that there is increasing of US pressure under this Donald Trump administration, particularly on energy imports, sanctions and trade. So here we have to take control properly on our foreign policy. That is the thing which mainly said. If you're talking about oil, oil is very important for India, crude oil. Without oil, there is no petrol, no diesel, no transportation, no good supply. Everything will be getting stalled if we are not ensuring energy security for the people, right? So what is happening after this Donald Trump came into power? In the first tenure, what happened? He came out with Iran's nuclear deal, and he started imposing of sanctions on countries which are importing oil from Iran. Because of this, what happened? India searched other countries. India went for diversification of its supply chains related to this crude oil. That is the first thing. And recently, you know about this Venezuela crisis. US arrested, US taken away the president of Venezuela along with his wife because of some charges regarding drug trafficking and malpractices, everything, right? And actually, Venezuela is a country which is having the world's largest oil reserves. But unfortunately, US Venezuela issue is not going to affect India much because we are importing less than 0.3 percentage of oil from Venezuela. But on other countries which are dependent on this Venezuela for their oil reserves, obviously getting affected. And you know, nowadays we are getting discounted price of oil from which country? Russia. Around 40% of oil we are getting from that Russia. Recently, US came up with this Russian Sanction Act 2025, and US said that yes, we are going to impose sanctions, and US is imposing 50% of sanctions on our goods. That means overall, this US is impacting or affecting oil or energy security of our country. The first important thing here is you have to remember that from Iran, from Venezuela, we got impacted a lot because of US. And in now 2025, because of this Russian Sanction Act, again India is getting affected by this Russian sanctions. Okay, next one here is there is no single global power, however dominant, can guarantee India's security. So can we ensure India's energy security if we are getting only oil from Russia or only oil from Iran or only oil from US? No. So nowadays we are living in this multilateralism, or we are living in this globalized era where one country is dependent on another country for its needs. So here this article is saying that there is no single global power that is dominant now that will guarantee India's security. So because of this, our economic interest should not be affected by that one country like US. That is the thing which mainly said. And this one here is this article is saying that we need to have strategic autonomy. We have to maintain our independence related to taking of decisions of what we need. Okay, so if we are having our own independent decision making, then only we can diversify our partnership. If we are depending on only US, if India become a puppet under this hand of US, means US will be dictating everything. India will not have the power of making its own decisions. India will be not having strategic autonomy. So here this article is saying that India needs strategic autonomy. India needs to take its decisions independently related to its growth, economy, whatever it may be. Okay, that's the thing which mainly said here, guys. So, what is the strategic implications here? If you are having a good strategic autonomy, there is no country will be influencing India's foreign policy. That is the one thing. And this one is there will be no pressure of other countries on India's energy exports and as well as imports. And this one here is uh, we we will be having our own diplomacy. And this one here is if something is happening in other countries, India will be not getting affected that much because India is independent to take decisions now. If not Venezuela, we can go to Russia. If not Russia, we can go to US. If not US, we can go to West Asian countries. So like that, we will be having different opportunities to find out the solutions for the problems that we are facing. That is the thing which mainly said. This article is clearly saying about strategic autonomy is very much required. What is the meaning of strategic autonomy? India can independently take its own decisions regarding its own needs. Okay. And now let us see the next article. Title says Budget 2026 to 2027 must keep the growth momentum. So as you all know that we discussed lots of articles regarding India's growth projections. As you all know that from the last quarter, India got around the growth of 8.2%, which is very high so far. And this one is even IMF also said that India's GDP is growing at 7.2 percentage, and even RBI also said it is around 7.4 percentage. Even World Bank also said that India's growth projection is 7.2 percentage. So because of this, what happening here is, and you know that India is the fourth largest economy in the world that we discussed recently. We bypassed Japan and we kicked Japan and we came into this place of fourth largest economy. And India is having lots of ambitions related to economy. What are they? Third largest economy and as well as 5 trillion economy and Viksit Bharat by 2047. So if we are having this kind of great ambitions and whatever the budget that we are going to place in the houses on this February 1st should focus on this growth. That is the idea of this article. And now let us see what exactly this article is saying. Union budget, which is going to be presented every year on February 1st to sustain India's economic resilience and high growth trajectory. So whatever the budget that we are going to place in the house, that should focus on economic resilience and as well as growth. And next one here, this article is saying that in this 2026, we are going to have lots of ups and downs. Why? Because of Russian Sanction Act and as well as US fear of sanctions, because in the US Iran issue is going on, US Venezuela issue is going on, Russia Ukraine issue is going on, here Palestine Israel issue is going on. So across the world there is no stability. So because of this, obviously it will be impacted on India. And next one here is you have to see about this US tariffs. And this one is our government is also taking lots of reforms related to this economic growth. So we have to keep all those in the mind and we have to take the proper, we have to make the proper budget. That is the thing which mainly said. And here where we have to focus more on this year budget is, first one is we have to maintain physical consolidation, especially we have to enhance, first point is capital expenditure and next one is social sector spending. Social sector spending is nothing but government come up with lots of schemes for the development of the people. What are they? For example, education related schemes, health related schemes, insurance related schemes, like that. So government has to focus on social sector spending. First one is capital expenditure, next one is social sector spending we have to focus. And next one here is, as you all know that India is sharing boundary with different countries, and always we have to remember about this Pakistan and China. They are enemy countries for India. So we don't know when they will come and when they will attack. So here we have to boost our defense sector. Okay, that is the thing which mainly said. And next one here is, if we want to increase our GDP, what we have to do? We have to increase production. So how can we increase production? If we are creating demand in other countries, obviously there will be increasing of production in our country. So here we have to increase our exports. There is a third important point that is said here. And this one here is we have to focus on even clean energy transition. If we are focusing on only fossil fuels, that will increase carbon dioxide emissions, that in turn will be having impact on our environment. So in this budget we have to focus on clean energy transition. That means we have to go for generation of electricity or power from the solar or wind or geothermal or any other alternative clean energy source. And this one is we have to focus on improving of infrastructure in our manufacturing sector. So whatever the infrastructure that we are using that is outdated, we have to improve our manufacturing sector updation. And this one is electric mobility, we need to focus, semiconductors we have to focus, and we have to focus on critical minerals mission. So in last class we discussed about critical minerals diplomacy article. So we have to get proper access to this critical minerals in our country now. And this one is we have to improve domestic, that is nothing but infrastructure reforms, so that we can unlock potential of our country. And what are the challenges we have now? First one here is tariffs, trade policies, competitiveness of Indian goods, and exports are very less. And this one is we have bottlenecks in our country, like there is no proper availability of critical minerals in our country. And this one here is we don't have proper revenue sources also. So all these challenges that we have to overcome so that we can achieve our long-term economic goals of our country. Okay, now let us see the practice questions. So see these questions. First one is Chabahar port provides India strategic access to. First one, only Afghanistan bypassing Pakistan. Afghanistan and Central Asia via INSTC. C. Europe directly without using Suez Canal. D. Southeast Asia through Malacca Strait. Okay, next one. See the next question. Appeasement of global powers cannot secure India's long-term interest. And the reason here is strategic autonomy allows India to diversify partnerships and resist coercion in a volatile world. So you have to see the options A, B, C, D. So please let me know your answers in the comment box, guys, online students. And next one is if you want to join this academy and if you want to talk to me directly, you can visit our academy, which is located in Ashok Nagar, Hyderabad, guys. And if you want to know more details about this course, please do contact us on this number 8074765513. Don't forget, guys. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. And if you really like this class, please do hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends. And do subscribe to Rathods IAS Academy. And if you want to get this PDF of this class, you can get that PDF in our Telegram channel. Link is given in description box. Follow that. Thank you, guys.